We have gotten a break with the weather, but the athletes will not be getting a break in this opening event. Texas Heavy is next.
Has done it. He is your Rogue Invitational champion.
Dell Diamond in Round Rock, Texas usually plays host to athletes looking to get to the highest level of their sport, and for the next 3 days it will play host to men and women who are at the pinnacle of the fitness world. Welcome to the 2023 Rogue Invitational, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland with former Affiliate Cup champion Adrian Conway. We're going to kick this thing off with the CrossFit competition, and Adrian, there are compelling storylines for both the men and the women's fields.
Compelling storylines all over. The big one, Tia Toomey is back. And what does that mean for the field? Well, this is the 6-time fittest woman on earth, and she is the 3-time Rogue Invitational defending champion in the past. But Laura Horvath is here, and she was the champ this year at the CrossFit Games, and she was the champ last year at the Rogue Invitational, and she did not come to take the back seat to Claire Toomey.
And on the men's side, all eyes will be on this matchup. Jeffrey Adler, the fittest man on earth, taking on Roman Krennikov.
That's right. Jeff Adler has built some tremendous momentum coming off of that victory at the CrossFit Games, and he's finished twice on the podium here in 3rd place. This year he's hungry to get to the top, but there's a man, Roman Krennikov, that is going to be standing in his way. Finishing 3rd at this year's CrossFit Games, a lot of people contend, Sean, that he was only 3rd because he broke his foot with 2 events to go. Will this be the place that he gets to stand on top of the podium?
Well, weather permitting, this is our schedule currently. Now, we will be updating you as we go if things change. The weather has already thrown a wrench into our planning day and rehearsal day as we get things kicked off at the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Now, contingency plans are in place in case weather continues to be a factor, and for more on that, Kiki Dixon is with Katie Henniger.
Katie, it's not raining right now, but that hasn't been the case the last few days. How is Rogue prepared for this?
Well, what weather right now, right? It's beautiful with the sun out, but in all seriousness, we really have been here all week dealing with the weather, going through contingencies for the whole weekend, and what I can guarantee is it's going to be safe for the athletes, and then at the end of the weekend, we're going to have the podium for this event.
Now, event number 1, about ready to start. What contingency are we on? A, B, C, Z?
Throughout the day, we went through A to Z, and we ended up back with A, so we're on our first one.
We're looking forward to it. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Event number 1 for the women, Texas Heavy, going to go off hopefully without a hitch here as we are back to Plan A. And Adrian, when we heard about Texas Heavy presented by GoRuck, the description we got before we got the description was, I don't think anyone's done this before, and then you see what is in store here and you say, oh yeah, that's why.
That's right. It's because the community has been familiar with rucking, but maybe not this heavy. In Event 1, Texas Heavy, they're going to go for a 1-mile ruck with 80 pounds on their body. Then they're going to shed some of the weight after the 1 mile, and for a half a mile, 800 meters, they're going to complete a 30-pound ruck. Then after that, they are going to run 1 mile with no weight, but they're not quite finished. Across the finish line, they are going to have to drag a sled bag that is 100 pounds.
And the loop that they will be running takes us out of Dell Diamond, around the back there, through the parking lot, and then through Vendor Village there that you can see that is just outside the stadium. They will be running through Vendor Village in the 1-mile portions of this event, and they will be bypassing that on the 800-meter portion of the event. Now, the athletes just heard about this, and there are 20 of them in the field, and all 20 women will be on the field at the same time. They will go before the men go. We have 15 women who are invited, and then we have another 5 women who qualified through the online queue. And there is Tia Toomey on the right side of your screen, back in action for the first time since winning the CrossFit Games in 2022. We'll be keeping an eye on Emily Rolfe in this event. This is her first appearance at the Rogue Invitational since 2021, and she won the Ruck event at the CrossFit Games in 2019. Gabby Magawa, another athlete to watch, 5th place at the Rogue Invitational in 2022. Also won the Capital at the CrossFit Games that year. And then Danielle Brandon looking to be a factor in this opening event as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this field is full of tremendous runners, but Danielle Brandon took first place on an event that was very similar to this one last year, being that it was a loaded run. The biggest question mark to me, Sean, is that 80 pounds that they're going to have to use for the first mile too much for Danielle to be able to express her high running capacity later in the event?
And Danielle Brandon and the rest of the competitors were on hand yesterday to get the full announcement of what event number 1 was, and Kiki Dixon talked to some of the athletes after they found out what was in store for them here on Thursday night.
Guys, the athletes were surprised. No one had this on their 2023 Rogue Invitational bingo card. Pat Vellner said he's interested to see which athletes are going to be able to run with this weight, if at all. He figures he might as well put his coach on his back, Michelle Latondra, and get the job done. I agree with Michelle that would be an interesting way indeed. Ariel Lowen is looking forward to this event. Her reaction was, it is going to be awesome. She would love to bring this event home with a W for Texas.
And event number 1, Texas Heavy, presented by GoRuck, is underway. 80 total pounds, 36 kilos that the women are carrying on this initial 1 mile run. They'll work their way out of the stadium. They'll make a left turn. They'll go through the parking lot and then around and through Vendor Village back into the stadium, and then they will shed the bag, and then they will run 800 meters, then they will shed the ruck, and then it's a final 1 mile run unweighted. We're joined in the booth by the CEO of GoRuck, Jason McCarthy. Now, this is unique for CrossFit. I don't think anybody's ever done a ruck this heavy, but this is nothing new to the GoRuck community. Bring Jason here in just a second. Having some technical difficulties with his mic, but there you can see out front early on. Looks like Emily Rolfe is on there on the left. Let's bring Jason McCarthy from GoRuck back in. And as I was saying, new to CrossFit, not new to the GoRuck community.
This is exactly our kind of
Still working on Jason's mic. We'll bring him in here in a second. And while we do that, Adrian, what are the keys to this event?
Yeah, I think that one of the first keys that you've got to consider, Sean, is that athletes need to trust their prep. You've got to understand that with this load and with this exposure, building intensity as we go, it's important for athletes to meet themselves where they're at. If they haven't been putting in the running volume, it would be a tremendous mistake for them to assume they're going to show up for this particular event and do something miraculous. They got to stay in their own pace. And then number 2 is that they've got to start slow and finish fast. Even for the best of runners here within the field, they've got to make sure that they come out at a pace that doesn't build unnecessary fatigue early so that they have an opportunity to thrive later in the event.
Tia Toomey is out front ahead of Emily Rolfe. Laura Horvath is there, and then on the left side of the screen, that's Danielle Brandon on this first 1 mile run. And one of the big questions coming into this was, how fast were they going to go on this opening 1 mile?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we had some speculation, right? There were people that were like, hey, I think they're going to take off and run, and there will be some people that want to be more aggressive than others. But one thing's for certain, there's a quality technique that we're looking for underlying the success of athletes in an event like this. You're going to see that people or athletes with success are going to have a big, broad chest, but they're also going to be hinged forward a bit at the hip. So they want to be able to consume as much oxygen as they can throughout the movement. They're also going to be careful not to strike the ground with a completely straight leg. They want to make sure that they keep the leg soft so that they can absorb it from the hip down and not just in the smaller bone structures and musculatures of the foot and the quads. And then, of course, they've got to be able to stay the pace that is appropriate for them. I think right now that we're seeing a little bit of jockeying for appropriate position. Who wants to chase who? As you see that we're kind of starting to break off into some smaller packs as the race unfolds here.
That looks like it is Laurel Horvath out front ahead of Tia Toomey. Or that might be, I think that's Horvath. Horvath ahead of Toomey right now. And then Emily Rolfe is currently in 3rd place.
Yeah, I agree with what I think you're seeing. Yeah, that's a Laura Horvath there leading the way. Tia Toomey there in second. And
Horvath coming in as the defending Invitational champion, also the fittest woman on earth. Tia Toomey taking a swig of water behind her.
yeah, Sean, and even as we look at the way that Laura's setting the pace, this is a bit foreign when you consider a running event. She's not typically going to be the person that we see jump to the front, but with the external load that is put on these athletes in the form of the ruck, I think it creates an advantage to the bigger, stronger athletes and has given her some confidence in her ability to lead the front of the pack even early in a 2.5 mile run that the athletes are being put up to in this event.
Horvath and Toomey first two into Vendor Village. As we are past the 5-minute mark here. Once they work their way back to the start, they'll ditch that bag.
So impressive.
And then
And
they will run the 800 meters with just the ruck
I
pack
think
on.
this event sets the tone in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, one thing to consider too is just the arm position that these athletes are put into as
everyone
they
here
have that sandbag draped
who's not in
over
position
both
1 or 2
shoulders. You're
is
not really
watching
able to
who
create a
gave birth
significant
about
amount
6
of arm
months ago,
swing.
beat them
Right?
right
Not to
out
mention
of
the
the
load,
gates.
but your arms are
That's a
almost
mind game
in a
whether you
fixed
want it to
position
be or
there,
not.
especially if you don't let one arm down from one side to the other to kind of give yourself some relief.
2021, they had a ruck event at
A lot of
West Coast
times it's
Classic.
going
They
to almost
did the
shunt
ruck
blood
there.
flow
It was
to the upper
increasing
body
weight
and start to lose some
class.
sensation within your grip and shoulder
increasing.
position. So
And,
it'll be interesting to see if different techniques start to come into play as we get deeper, closer towards that 10-minute mark of this run.
Field really starting to spread out here. This 80-pound total run here. 50 pounds in that horn sack and then 30 pounds in the ruck.
This is where we start to see a lot of gamifying too with the athletes, where there might be someone that doesn't consider themselves the fastest runner, but is going to be able to stay in striking distance of a position that they feel like would earn them solid points. And what I mean by that is everyone starts to understand the war of attrition in a competition like this, where volume adds up over time. Each stride is going to accumulate fatigue, and they know that they still have an onslaught of events waiting for them over the next 3 days. At a certain point, athletes have to weigh and measure where the juice is worth the squeeze for their efforts and for the undue fatigue that will start to accumulate throughout the course of a weekend. So I think we'll start to see that as this event plays out as well, is who's just holding on for some damage control and who's going for the gusto to try to swindle 100 points here right out of the gate.
Third try is the charm here. Jason McCarthy, the CEO of GoRuck, joining us. Jason, sorry about the technical difficulties. Thanks for hanging through that. What have you seen so far in this event that you either like, don't like, or tells you that someone is being successful at this track?
I mean, I just got a big smile on my face. This is our kind of fun, and it's great to see Tia back. And you know, it's just they're just whooping it on, and you see the leaders are moving at a pretty consistent pace. That's the goal with this. They're not running per se because they're not going fast enough to really qualify it as running. It's more of just a shuffle and a consistent pace, that's exactly what you want to do. You know, you pick up 100 pounds, you put it on your back. That's no big deal, especially for athletes like this. Now you're in a foot race. Competition breeds excellence. All the butterflies are going. It's really fantastic to see this go down like this.
Horvath and Toomey, the first two in. Gabby McGowa right behind them. As they are just about done with this opening 1 mile run. After this, it's put down that 50-pound corn sack and then run 800 meters with the 30-pound ruck.
And so what happens when you do that is you're taking all this weight off of your back, right? And that is like taking your ski boots off after a whole day on the slopes, right? It feels amazing. The problem is your legs and your lower body is super swollen from what you've done here, which is try to go really fast with a lot of weight on your back, but then you're expected to go even faster. And so they'll all recognize what a 30-pound ruck run is, what I would call it, up next, will be for their bodies, but their legs have they've got that fun in them from this first mile, and that's part of it, which is fantastic to see.
Horvath and Toomey just about at the same time. 1 and 2 here. And now the 800 meters with 30 pounds. Gabby McGowan is in third.
And now the faster you start going like this, there's little tips and tricks that you learn over time, such as you want that rucksack cinched down as high and tight as possible. I see a little bit of movement in Laura's rucksack, a little bit more than maybe Tia's. You know, that's just a technique that you learn over time, because the more that it's bouncing around at all, you know, it's just kind of annoying. So the more that you really make it a part of your back, which is how they're designed, the more comfortable the ride is, so to say. But they just look like they're just having a great time, you know?
There's Danielle Brandon, who won the opening event of the Rogue Invitational last year in the Texas Trail, working her way out on her 800-meter run. Behind her, Lauren Fisher.
And we start to see some changes to the running technique and body position overall, Jason, as we see them shed the weight. It seems like we're watching them become more upright. Of course, they have more freedom in their upper body. Is this something that you expect, as well as that elongation in their stride?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the breathing thing is what takes time to get used to. I mean, you'll see a lot of people, they think you have to have all these sternum straps and hip belts and all this stuff, and all of those come at a cost. And when you see someone's shoulders back, if you can breathe correctly, then you own that pose, you own that position. And it's no different with rucking. If your shoulders are kind of back and your spine is basically straight up and you're running like you would expect a runner to look, then what's happening is you're just able to breathe better, and that's exactly what you want. So when you start cheating, when the weight gets too heavy for how fast you want to go, you start kind of hunching forward. You hunch forward and you hunch forward, because it's allowing you to kind of transfer that load a little bit differently, and differently is good when you get too fatigued in one position. And so you take that off, and it gets a lot easier to kind of maintain a proper form in this case, which is a little bit more upright and helps you breathe a little bit better. And in theory, it makes you go a lot faster.
Tia Toomey is now in front. Gabby McGowan sits in second, with Laura Horvath in third here.
Yeah, and it's interesting what we're watching towards the front, even as we watch the difference in the frequency of their strides hitting the ground. Tia seems to have a faster strike or revolution of her feet per second, right? Like she's making ground contact a little bit quicker than both Gabby and especially Laura. As what we're seeing now is it seems like Laura might be fading a little bit away from Gabby and Tia, as she's still taking those elongated strides, might be a hair early, still weighted, not completely free from the external loading. And this is what I tend to feel when I do this myself, is that my legs feel heavy when I take those long strides. I build up a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, really heavy. This is not where they're starting. Remember, they have an 80-pound 1 mile ruck behind them. That's in their legs already, and that takes a toll. And so that takes a big toll.
Yeah, many people will be familiar with the name Chris Hinshaw in our spaces. He is the aerobic capacity instructor and teaches that course. I leaned on him for many years as a coach, and one of the things that he echoed to myself and other athletes was, you've got to be able to control your stride frequency. Once you're out of control there, you lose control of your breathing, and then it just becomes an exponential downgrade for your performance as you continue to go.
Tia Toomey and Gabby McGowan are about to lap Shelby Neal, who is still on her opening 1 mile run here. Neal got to the Rogue Invitational when Annie Thorisdottir, congratulations to her and Frederica Gideus, announced that she was pregnant. She wouldn't be competing. Shelby Neal in, but now getting lapped by Tia Toomey and Gabby McGowan. And Laura Horvath is in third. Last time we saw her, and Emily Rolfe was gaining ground on Horvath for a spot in the top 3 in this first of 9 events that these athletes will face here at the Rogue Invitational. And Tia Toomey is going to be the first woman to complete her 800-meter run, and now it's 1 mile with nothing on her whatsoever. And she looks to make a quick transition here, and she does just that, makes the left turn, and now back on the 1 mile course. And Tia Toomey looking to open up more of a lead here on Gabby McGowan, as now Laura Horvath has fallen way off the lead pace. You can see her and Emily Rolfe at about the same time in the background, now ditching their ruck packs.
That's right. Now we're really going to get to see who has picked the appropriate pace to start this event with, right? It seems as though Laura probably overshot her coverage in a particular way when it comes to pacing. She wanted to lead the pack. She wanted to set the tone, and it looks like it could have bitten her a bit. Now, there's still some time left for her to make up some ground, but it's going to get exponentially harder to close ground on a leader like Tia-Clair Toomey, who has paced it just right. She looks smooth. She looks composed. I think that we're actually going to watch her build speed here through the next 400 meters and settle into a pretty fast mile pace in order to dictate how far she is from Gabby.
Tia Toomey and Gabby McGowan, top two by a long way here. Just in the background now, you can see Laura Horvath and Emily Rolfe rounding the corner. Approaching the 15-minute mark here. Tia Toomey has won the Rogue Invitational every year she has competed. Did not compete last year. Laura Horvath won that competition, but first in 2019, first in 2020, first in 2021, and looking to win the first event in 2023.
Approximately 6 months postpartum, Sean, the recovery, the ability to come back, rebuild your body into a shape that will be unfamiliar to her because it's new now. It's something different, but the 6-time fittest woman on earth, and of course the 3-time defending Rogue Invitational champ, shows that she is not here to do anything except walk away with the crown one more time.
Toomey and McGowan way out in front. Once Tia and Gabby get back into the stadium, they will have to finish up this event with a 100-pound pull to the finish line. They have a bag they have to pull across the finish, and shouldn't be a problem for either one of these athletes, but Gabby McGowan is really running out of time to gain any ground on Tia. In fact, Tia looks like she's widening that lead here on this final trek around this 1-mile track.
Yeah, and I think that was something that's kind of apparent. And Jason, I'll ask you about this, is even when you talked about shedding the weight as you go. So they come down, they get down to that ruck, and now as they strip down even to the body weight, we saw this. Tia didn't necessarily just start off a dead sprint when she shed the weight. She almost like built speed as she built into that 1 mile.
I mean, it's just like taking ski boots off. You're not ready to just do everything as if you didn't wear them recently. And so, you know, the blood flow starts to come back, and, you know, you remember what it feels like to take these deeper breaths, and it changes your gait. It changes just the way that you're performing. And so you got to get a little bit used to your new state, and she's obviously doing that.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience that comes with having that type of self-awareness, because a lot of athletes, without having the ability to experience and put down the miles with weighted running, particularly in the form of a ruck, a heavy ruck, they're going to be blind to the sensation and assume that they won't have those Bambi legs coming off of that load, and they might be able to just, you know, pace a little slower early or start really slow and reserved and then just have this radical change of speed. But I think a lot of the athletes here, even on event 1 that we're witnessing, probably reserved a little too much even in the tank and found themselves out of the opportunity to even be in a top 5 or top 10 finish, simply because they thought they would be able to close the gap or make moves once they got to the lighter runs or the unweighted one.
Laura Horvath, bottom right side of your screen, has just now gotten to Vendor Village, and I believe that is Emily Rolfe behind her. Or maybe Emily Rolfe is in front of her. You have to check on that. But it's Tia Toomey, it's Gabby McGowan, and it's nobody really challenging them at this point. Laura Horvath currently sits in 3rd place, so she's been able to gain a little bit more of a lead on Emily Rolfe, as the two of them were neck and neck to start this final 1 mile run. There is Tia Toomey, who is in the final stages of this 1 mile run, and then it's the bag drag across the finish.
And look at her run. You would never guess by watching Tia's stride, watching Tia's body language, that she just carried the weight she carried him for the distance that she had to carry it. So it is one of those things where it pays to be a winner. It pays to have the understanding and the self-awareness on how to pace appropriately versus the field in order to get yourself some great momentum to start a wonderful event like she's doing here in event 1.
Well, earlier we were talking with via text with Chris Hinshaw, wondering what the first mile would take some of these women, and it was a couple minutes off of what we're at now. I mean, we way underestimated the capacity of these women to move this load this fast.
Yeah, they started fast and started aggressive. Specifically, the top 5, top 6 were all kind of in a pack for quite a while, and then of course we started to see some separation, and now Tia's on a stroll in Round Rock, Texas, out by herself as the sun goes down.
Out for an easy evening jog, and then it's the bag drag across the finish line for your 3-time Rogue Invitational champion, Tia Toomey, who is absolutely torching this opening event. Gabby McGowan now making the final turn to those bags you can see laid out on the field that they will have to drag across the finish line. And there goes Tia Toomey on her final portion of this event.
And can you imagine the feeling? The champ just having this feeling come back to return the questions.
And McGowan's on the bag now, but she's not going to be able to catch Tia Toomey, and it's like she never left. Opening event win for Tia Toomey here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Gabby McGowan will take second. Great start for her, coming off that 5th place finish here at the Invitational in 2022. And now we'll see if Laura Horvath can hang on to 3rd. Horvath is on the bag to make that Emily Rolfe. So Emily Rolfe is now on the bag. So Rolfe looking to finish 3rd.
Great shirt selection for this.
Ruck fast.
Emily Rolfe, a 3rd place finish to kick things off. And now Laura Horvath will be the next woman across the finish line. It's like Emma Lawson is in. And Bethany Flores is now across.
Way to be an inspiration. You're so amazing.
Danielle Brandon trying to hold off Lauren Fisher here. It's like Brandon's going to accomplish that. So Danielle Brandon is now in, and Fisher will be next. So we approach the 22-minute mark here of the opening event, the first of 9 events that the individuals will face here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational.
These women crushed it. They all put up some impressive times, especially with where we were expecting them to be.
That's Manon Enganez, making her 2nd Rogue Invitational appearance. She finished 11th here in 2022.
Sean, and this all really brings up a topic that is very interesting with the time and season that we find ourselves in. Athletes coming away from the CrossFit Games, some of them not as peaked conditioning-wise as they might feel like they need to be for an event such as this one. But I know that's something that Manon has been working on with her coach and trying to grow her capacity. And so I'll be interested to see what they feel about her performance.
Manon being congratulated by Tia Toomey, who starts off with an event win here. And that is Paige Semenza coming across ahead of Elena Caratala Sanahuya. So Semenza is done. There's Alex Gazan. Gazan making her first appearance here at the Rogue Invitational, coming off that 5th place finish at the CrossFit Games earlier this year. We still have more women who are wrapping up that 1-mile run. Christine Kohlenbrander on the right side. There's Danny Spiegel on the left.
Yeah, we talked briefly about the war of attrition here that takes place over the course of 4 days or so, and it's one of those things where when you understand that this is the position that you're going to be in, it's not going to be a top 10 finish. How fast do you go to finish the event? How much of your pride do you lay on the line, and how much do you think about self-preservation to allow yourself more energy or a higher ability to recover?
There is Emma Carey. She is in. Jason McCarthy, the CEO of Go Ruck, is joining us here in the booth. Been hearing from him throughout this event. What has impressed you about what you've seen here so far with the women?
I mean, first off, Tia is very impressive. And it's not just I'm used to this world where I come from where competition breeds excellence, and everything you do is about living that life. And, so she dominates the event, right? Like a total pro, slow and steady with the 80 pounds, and then she just gradually picks it up. She just sets the pace, never panics, doesn't even look back over her shoulders. She's just always looking ahead. And then she gets done and she grabs a bottle of water, and she high-fives everybody else that comes in. It's like, hey, I'm back. You know it. Now you really know it. It's really impressive, just everything, in every way.
Saw Karin Freyova finish up. There goes Paige Powers, who started off her 2023 with a win at Wadapalooza, and then had a really great showing at the CrossFit Games, finishing 10th overall. This 100-pound bag should not be a problem for her.
But overall, it's just really impressive to see the entire field embrace this and carry a lot of heavy weight, long distances, competition breeding excellence, of course, and just give it their all. I mean, it's something new, great, right? That's what this is all about.
And now Paige Powers is in.
Yeah, Jason, and I think that's the beauty of athletes that are fortunate enough to find themselves here at the Rogue Invitational. Is it's a chance to touch implements that you've never touched before, be tested in a way that you've never been tested before, and also, oh, by the way, you're against the fittest athletes in the world here on the biggest stage that exists. So I love that you brought that up, because I think this competition specifically breeds a ton of excellence, and it's an experience that a lot of these athletes have been waiting for a long time.
Christine Kohlenbrander is going to work her way across the finish line. Tia Toomey is your event winner. It's her 11th career event win at the Rogue Invitational. And now Kohlenbrander is across.
Christine, definitely going to be an athlete that we'll have to keep our eye on throughout the course of the weekend. Definitely one of the stronger, one of the most explosive that are out there in the field.
And now Danny Spiegel is across. There are still 2 bags out on the field. Danny Spiegel, one of the athletes who qualified through the queue, making her 3rd appearance at the Rogue Invitational. Her best finish was 8th in 2019, and then took 12th last year. Here comes Shelby Neal.
Shelby Neal, the athlete that got the nod to come play with the women because of Annie's withdrawal.
Making her first appearance here at the Rogue Invitational. 19th in the CrossFit Games in her rookie year. And that's Kyra Milligan, who will be the next woman to that 100-pound bag.
Kyra here gaining invaluable experience as an individual competitor. She got to be at the CrossFit Games on a team last year with Mayhem, but having that opportunity to rub shoulders and go toe-to-toe with the fittest women in the world, and of course, the fittest woman in history out there in this lineup, it's really going to be a great opportunity for her to see where she's at in her athletic journey, what are the things she needs to continue to work on, the holes she needs to fill in, but just really learn the value and experience of head-to-head competition, which is hard to simulate. And there's no better place to do that here than here.
Had a great showing on the Mayhem Independence team at the CrossFit Games, finished 7th with that squad back in August. Milligan lugging that bag across the finish to close things out, and that will leave Shelby Neal as the only woman left on the course here. As once again it was Tia Toomey who picks up her 11th career event win here at the Rogue Invitational. There is Shelby Neal working her way back inside the stadium. Neal making the descent down that ramp into the outfield here at Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas.
And this is the same kind of thing for Shelby Neal, you know, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to take in this blessing of being on the competition floor. Certainly not something she expected for more than just a couple weeks ago as she got the opportunity to prepare for this. It probably wasn't within the same mindset that a lot of these women taking the field had the chance to do. But being a rookie at the CrossFit Games, these are invaluable lessons she's about to take in over the next 4 days. And regardless of the outcome for her, she's going to be able to build personal momentum on what she needs to work on, where she needs to be, the things she can do to grow.
Former gymnast who started CrossFit at 14 years old, also a previous Team USA youth lifter. And now she'll have to lift that bag, or at least drag it across the finish line. To close things out here for the women in their opening event, Texas Heavy, presented by GoRuck, here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the wetness of the field adds a little bit of friction, just a little bit.
And Neal is in, and that will do it for the women. And Tia Toomey over to congratulate Shelby Neal, and it's Tia Toomey who picks up the event win at 100 points as she looks to reclaim her title here at the Rogue Invitational.
That's right, and she pretty much put on a clinic with this performance, Sean. She came out and she set the tone very, very early. All right, man, and out the gate, let me tell you, this really makes me smile when I can refer back to our keys, and it was a success for Tia. She started at the pace that she needed to start at. It was slightly just behind Laura, but as you see her make that move, she never looked back once she passed Laura Horvath there. And she not only didn't look back, but she actually continued to create greater separation between herself and then Gabby Magawa, who would come in at second place. But just a shot of the champ there, stride for stride, looking relaxed, looking composed, and she did exactly what she needed to do in that event to capitalize and build momentum, set herself up, not just literally on the point side, but also emotionally and physically for success for the week to come.
Tia Toomey opens things up with a win here, and she is with Kiki Dixon.
Tia, this is your first competition, your first event back since having your daughter. How important was it to you to get this win?
Oh, absolutely crucial. You know, we've only got 9 events, and you've got to capitalize on every event.
Now, with your preparation for this competition and this particular event, was there any ever doubt in your mind about how this was going to go?
No, I was adamant that I was coming back at the Rogue Invitational, and I made it happen.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much. Thanks, guys.
th career win here at the Rogue Invitational for Tia Toomey. Gabby Magawa will take second, and it's Emily Rolfe who managed to pass Laura Horvath who will take third, and it's Horvath who winds up in fourth. 20 minutes, 24 seconds officially for Tia Toomey, and we wanted to know what she was going to look like after the time off and being so close to the birth of her daughter. I think the question's been answered.
Very clearly. And she showed up with the mentality that it's all business. She came to win, not to participate.
Women are done. Men are coming up next as they take on Texas Heavy. So stay with us, everybody, as action continues here on the opening day of the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Opening day of competition continues here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational from Dell Diamond in Round Rock, Texas. Thanks for being with us, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland, alongside a former affiliate cup winner Adrian Conway, and we are joined in the booth by the CEO of GoRuck, Jason McCarthy. Event number one for the men is presented by GoRuck. It is Texas heavy, and that might be an understatement.
It might just be an understatement, Sean. And in this particular event, the men are going to strap up with 100 pounds for 1 mile to start. They're going to re-enter the stadium, then go for a 800-meter ruck after they shed some of the weight, and then finally they're going to be running 1 mile unweighted, and then they're going to re-enter the stadium and pull the sled bag to the finish.
And in case you're just joining us, the track that they will be running will take them out and around the back of Dell Diamond Stadium, and then they will run through Vendor Village that is at the top of your screen. That's what will take place on the 1 mile runs. On the 800-meter run, they will bypass Vendor Village and come back into the stadium. And as you heard Adrian mention, then we close out with the 125-pound bag pull across the finish line. 20 men will be on the field at the same time, and we will be watching Jason Hopper, who's trying to make up for a 31st place finish at the CrossFit Games. He was 7th at the Rogue Invitational last year and won the opening event, Texas Trail. Yellow Hosta, he is making his first appearance here at the Rogue Invitational after a top 10 finish at the CrossFit Games. He won the 5K event in Madison, Wisconsin. And then, of course, you got to always be watching the defending fittest man on earth, and that is Jeff Adler.
Yeah, the defending champ. We know that he's been working on his engine. We know that he's a proficient runner. First in Helen at the Games last year, second in the 5K, and second here at the Rogue Invitational in the Texas Trail. All because he thought that was the best place for him to accumulate points and conserve energy. We'll see if he can go get a dub in this one.
And we are underway. 100 total pounds that these athletes will be carrying on this first 1 mile run. And let's bring in Jason McCarthy, the CEO of GoRuck. Now, this is something that you have done. Like, what does this all feel like on your body when you're trying to traverse a mile?
So I've spent a lot of time under a ruck in the Army and subsequently through GoRuck. And the first time I miler was a couple of years ago. And I was really uncertain how it was going to be, especially towards the end of it. You know, you start out, it's like, okay, this is heavy. You kind of start maybe going a little too fast, hoping that you're going to be able to sustain that pace. And it was crushing. I mean, 100-pound mile is crushing in just an awesome way. I mean, it's strength, it's cardio, it's both. You throw in some of your buddies and people that you really, really want to just defeat, and it's really just this perfect recipe where competition breeds excellence, and you get to see what you're made of.
Roman Krennikov is out front early, starting to open up some distance between himself and the pack. Now, Adrian, you got to watch the women go. How, if at all, does that affect your keys to this event?
Gosh, I got to tell you, Sean, I don't think it really changes much at all. What we saw was the lead exchange hands. We saw some people start a little faster than maybe they should have last test. I think it's still important to trust your prep. You've got to know that if you've put in the miles, if you've got the exposure to weighted running, how exactly you need to approach it. Nothing magical is going to happen here on game day. And then the second key is that you've got to start slow and finish fast. You've got to make sure that you adjust your stride cadence and your stride frequency. Allow it to be a little bit higher early, not cover as much ground, so that as you lose the load per each lap, you get an opportunity to elongate your stride and run smoothly as you gain speed.
Roman Krennikov out front early. Looks like Yellow Hosta is starting to move up and challenge him for the top spot, and now Hosta is dead even. You see Jeff Adler now is starting to gain some ground on Roman Krennikov.
Which that was almost a little bit strange, right? Yellow was kind of throttled back, pacing it accordingly, and then he made a very aggressive charge to intentionally catch up to Roman and not pass him, but just be right there in striking opportunity of the leader.
Jason, what are the main things you got to keep in mind here when you're trying to be efficient with this amount of weight on your body?
Yeah, I mean, there's an economy of movement that you're going for. You really want to find this sweet spot of how you can shuffle and maintain that pace throughout the course of it. When you start trying to, oh, I got to run or try to catch up to somebody, or, you know, if you start walking, that's about the worst thing you can do because it's really hard to pick it back up. But there's this unfamiliarity that comes, especially as this prolongs, where you start to realize that your legs are getting a lot more sore than you might be used to from just a normal run or a ruck run or whatever it might be. The weight is just significant, and it takes a little bit of time, especially for great athletes, for that to kind of come to bear. You know, the blood starts rushing to your legs in a way that it might not if you have a lot less weight. So when people start to lean forward a little bit too much, that's kind of their body telling them they're not ready to go at that pace with that amount of weight, and it kind of curtails your breathing a little bit, and it makes your form not as good. If you start, I mean, our cadre used to say, stop looking at your feet, there's only death down there. And if you keep your eyes straight and more forward, it's just, what follows is your chest will open up. And so as you see, you see Jeff trying to look a little bit forward, it's just when all you're doing is looking down, your body will usually follow, and that's not a good place to be for this kind of weight and time and distance.
Roman Krennikov, Yelahosa, and Jeff Adler, your top three. And it looks like Travis Mayer is ahead of Jason Hopper there in that pack, trailing the top three on this 1 mile run.
Travis, one of those athletes I'm extremely excited to watch take the floor this week, as we didn't get to see him appear at the CrossFit Games this year due to an injury. I'm sure that this is something that he's certainly anticipated and really looked forward to as an opportunity to not just test himself, but also knock the rust off a little bit with some of his fellow competitors.
100 total pounds they're carrying, 55 pounds in that sack, 45 pounds in the ruck. So that's 24 kilos on the sack and 20 kilos on the ruck. Krennikov, Hosta, and Adler now working their way through Vendor Village, along with the pack that is starting to creep up a little bit on them here in the back half of this opening 1 mile run. After this, they get rid of that 55-pound bag, and it's an 800-meter run with a 45-pound pack.
And what we saw from the women is that as these athletes go into the stadium and get ready to shed that upper portion of the ruck, it's a chance for us to really see now who selected the right pace going into that first mile. Was it too fast and too aggressive, or are they going to be able to settle into a more moderately paced run in here into lap 2?
Jason, when did you start talking about doing this event here at this competition?
Well, at this competition, I found out about right when everybody else did. But before that, I mean, we've been doing this as part of our just physical fitness test at GoRuck for a couple of years now. We've put it in some of the competitions that we've had. Hell, I've run a 100-pound beer mile out of my driveway with my buddies. I mean, you can make this fun, right? Just depends upon your definition of fun. And going really fast like these guys are trying to go and beat each other, that's also really fun. There's a time and a place for all of this. But in all seriousness, I mean, the 100 pounds is a lot more significant than even 80 as a guy, right? So proportionally 60, not much. 80, you're getting there. 100, it's a different animal.
Earlier we were talking about this, and we were just speculating on times. And you said that you had someone who was a runner run a 6:30 mile with 100 pounds. Obviously these guys are going to hit that, but this is an impressive pace.
This is really impressive. I mean, it's really impressive. Yeah. I mean, because look, with rucking, I mean, for every pound that your body weighs, you have to carry that with you everywhere you go. And so there's this kind of optimal size that you would have if you were just going to ruck. You're not too skinny, but you're maybe not quite as big. And like the time that these guys are putting in at this, given what their first proficiency is it's really, really impressive.
Things have gotten crowded at the front. Roman Krennikov is now being challenged by Travis Mayer. Jeff Adler, Yelahosa are still there, and a couple Aussies behind them, Ricky Garrard and Jay Crouch.
Yeah, and as we start to see this play out, it's interesting, right? We had the initial 3 come out. They were more aggressive in Krennikov, Hosta, and Adler, and they broke away from the rest of the pack. And now we wonder, was that for naught? Did they waste energy? Did they come out a little bit too hot or too aggressive to stay together as the lead pack? Because now we watched others close the gap, and it didn't create any kind of advantage.
Chandler Smith is there along with Jason Hopper now reaching that pylon. Lazar Jukic, Brent Fikowski, Will Morad. So Noah Olson in the back with Pat Vellner. But everybody pretty tightly grouped here as they close out this first 1 mile run.
it's going to be a huge deal to put that 55-pound sandbag down.
There is Jonakoski, who has put the bag down, and looks like there's something wrong with the right leg. Either it's a cramp or a problem. But we'll check on Jonakoski, who is down there on the warning track in left field. Yellow Hosta is now on to the 800-meter run, along with Adler and Krennikov from Jay Crouch. But Yellow Hosta now out front as he starts his 800-meter run.
Yeah, and you notice a pretty aggressive shift in Yellow's pace. He anticipated this moment and time within this race where he's opening up his stride intentionally. He's driving his elbows back, keeping his hands close to his body, opened up his posture. He certainly identified this as a moment for him to try to create separation between him and the pack.
And the matchup we talked about earlier, right behind Yellow Hosta, Roman Krennikov and Jeff Adler fighting for second place. Ricky Garrard has moved into the top 4 with Jason Hopper right on his hip. Jay Crouch behind him as Hopper now passes Garrard. And Yellow Hosta is starting to open up a lead here.
Yeah, Sean, I got an opportunity to speak with him a little bit back and forth leading into this event, and he said it very simply. I like simple tests. I like high power output tests, and I like simple, heavy lifts. Well, in this particular event, he gets a combination of some of his very favorite things, 100-pound running and a simple monostructural test in the form of running.
I got to talk to him before he made his rookie debut at the CrossFit Games, and he said he was really looking forward to some of those outside-the-box things that you can do. And there is the lead that he has built over Jeff Adler and Roman Krennikov. First appearance here at the Rogue Invitational for Yellow Hosta, who has made the turn. Again, they bypass Vendor Village on this 800-meter run. And then it's going to be a 1-mile run unweighted, but Yellow Hosta looks like he's going to be hard to catch right now. This is a similar lead that Tia Toomey started to build for the women at this portion of this event. And Yellow Hosta now working his way back into Dell Diamond Stadium, checking his watch.
Yeah, and he might be checking there, his split as he just connected with his coach there, Andre Houdet. He just shouted over his shoulder. Just a connection. Andre telling him, hey, stay on pace, you're in a good place. He could have been monitoring his heart rate as well, just making sure it doesn't get too out of hand. When we're on the field of competition, it's one thing to keep a pace based off of your peers, but it's another thing to anticipate fatigue that is building over time and keep yourself in a place that allows you to strike when the moment is right. It's very easy at this point for Yellow to probably get ahead of himself, so he could have been checking his pace to make sure he was doing just the right thing at the right time.
And there's Jonakoski, who we showed you earlier. He was down on the ground looking at his right leg, but he is back moving and looks to be okay. So that's good news for Jonakoski, although he is in last place in this event. But we still have 8 events to go after this, so plenty of time remaining for Jonakoski, who is making his 3rd appearance here at the Rogue Invitational. He finished 11th overall in 2022.
And Sean, we've been battling the weather, right? We knew that was going to be a concern, something that we were going to have to pivot around throughout. But the one thing that I've got to mention is that, yes, it is raining here, folks, but when that sun was out, it was cooking and it was hot, and that mixed with the moisture could create scenarios where athletes are going to be sweating more along with the load from the ruck, and that could be what Jona's battling with muscle cramps there when we caught him on the ground, but it's great to see him back on his feet.
Yellow Hosta continues to lead Roman Krennikov and Jeff Adler as they will get ready to ditch those packs and then head back out on a 1-mile run before it's that 125-pound bag drag across the finish.
Got a few significant weight changes in this. I mean, your legs are feeling so different when you've got 100 pounds on your back, or you've got 45 pounds on your back, and then you've got you're running slick, so you've got 0 on your back. But it's cumulative at the same time, so you've got all this blood flow down there, and it's going to mess with your form and your gait and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun to see him just sort of drive through it.
And now that the weight is off of them, where are they feeling that the most on this portion of the event?
Yeah, so the blood flow would accumulate in your thighs and in your legs, right? But your shoulders there's a blood flow that rushes back to that area once you take the weight off. And so especially when you get it all off, man, you just have this desire to roll your shoulders back and take this nice deep breath and kind of keep going. And so again, it's kind of like taking your ski boots off after a long day on the slopes. It feels fantastic.
Yellow Hosta taking an opportunity to grab some water and swig some and douse some over his head as well.
Yeah, the change in weather can be kind of hard. Overall, it's really nice rucking weather, though. It's really nice. I mean, you don't want it too hot, and so doing it a little bit later in the day, I think, was a great call. And a little bit of cloud cover is a great call. I mean, the ruck itself, especially as you're not used to it, we used to call it a microwave. You put the microwave on your back, and then you're going. I mean, it heats you up with every step you take. So, yeah.
Hosta still out in front. You saw he completed his 800-meter run in just under 13 minutes, 12 minutes, 40 seconds on his split time. Battle for second going on behind him is still between Adler and Krennikov.
And that's just something that we've got to watch really closely, right? We know both of those athletes are vying for a top spot on the podium. They want to be the Rogue Invitational champ this year. Jeff has a unique way of pacing runs, not necessarily full sending to win, but to accumulate points and also reserve the appropriate amount of energy for the events that are still looming or left to come. So it'll be interesting to see the moves that he chooses to make, and if Roman allows him to make those moves for that second place position, and also if he decides if that first place is within reach and can make a push on Yella here, that he still has a pretty substantial lead.
Jeff Adler has now moved into second place ahead of Roman Krennikov, and the field behind them thinning out a little bit. You see Chandler Smith is there, Jason Hopper. But things starting to spread out on this final 1 mile run.
Yeah, it looks like athletes are going to be coming in for this sled bag pull a little bit more tightly knit than we saw on the women's side, which is going to make for an interesting race for the final pull there to the finish line.
Jeff Adler now starting to creep up on Yella Hosta as Roman Krennikov is now back in third.
Yeah, and this is big, Sean. Again, we're talking about posture. Look at the way Yella's running. Long, elongated stride, really pumping his elbows back from side to side on each side of his body. And then Jeff looking a bit more relaxed. Stride length a touch shorter, but stride frequency that much higher. It allows him to dictate his forward lean and then also dictate his pace without costing him quite as much fatigue to build up in his legs. So he is right here in striking distance to make a run at making a pass here to nab 100 points on this event.
Adler about even now with Hosta. And Adler looking to make the pass here in Vendor Village, and Jeff Adler is now your leader. Krennikov still in third, but this is the battle for the top spot right now. And this one might come down to that 125-pound bag.
And it will, and both athletes continue looking over their shoulder, wondering how close Roman is. Is he still a threat? Is he going to be in this pull-off that they're about to have with this bag? Jeff, I would imagine, flexing that bit of self-awareness here. How much time does he have left on the run? How much separation can he buy himself to get to a bag and to get it pulled across the finish line in time? I mean, what we've seen even so far in this event, his ability to come back from where he was 4.5 minutes ago has been amazing to see from a strategy perspective and also a pacing perspective.
Jeff Adler in his third appearance here at the Rogue Invitational, and he was third in 2021 and third again in 2022. See Carolyn Lambre, his coach, on the left there running with him. Brent Fikowski, you just saw him in the background. He looks like he's in fourth place behind Roman Krennikov, as Adler's going to be the first man back into Dell Diamond Stadium. and looks to be the first man to that 125-pound bag. Continuing to check behind him to see where Yelahosta is. There's Roman Krennikov making the turn, and you should see Brent Fikowski coming into view relatively soon. Here is Adler on the warning track, past the Rogue coaster that we will see later on this weekend as part of the Strongman competition. Here comes Yelahosta.
Wow, Jeff coming in just with enough space to give himself a little bit of a security blanket as he gets to that bag.
Adler around the final pylon, and now to the 125-pound bag. Has to drag that to the finish for an event win here to start off his competition. Yelahosta is on the bag. Adler is done, and Jeff Adler opens up the 2023 Rogue Invitational with an event win in Texas Heavy. Yelahosta will take second. Now Roman Krennikov will be the third man across the finish line. And now Brent Fikowski is going to beat Chandler Smith across the finish line. Hopper and Crouch are racing. Looks like Hopper gets there first ahead of Jay Crouch. And now Ricky Garrard is in. Great to see Ricky back here in competition after that shoulder injury knocked him out of the season. And Pat Vellner was able to work his way up. Solid finish for Pat here in the opening event. First of 9 events here at the Rogue Invitational as Noah Olson is just about done. Close finish between Jukic and Morad. Have to wait for the official score on that, but they were dead even as Bjorgren Carl Gumundsson follows them across the finish line. Vellner has a hold of that 125-pound bag. No one else is on this portion of the event.
Yeah, take your time, Pat. Hey, listen, we all got our pride and ego. We want to finish for time. We want to finish fast, but we got to think about what's to come. And if there's no threat to lose points, just get the work done.
And Vellner is in. There is Noah Olson. He made his 10th career appearance at the CrossFit Games in 2023, finished 16th. This is the 4th time he's competed here at the Rogue Invitational. His best finish came in 2020 when he took 3rd in that virtual event.
What an individual career we've got to witness from Noah Olson. Fan favorite, gotta be.
That is Garrett Clark making his first appearance here at the Rogue Invitational. One of the guys representing sort of the next generation of CrossFit athletes started CrossFit when he was 12 years old. That was in 2010.
Crazy. Crazy. Another youngster.
Saw Dallin Pepper working his way to the bag. Pepper coming off a career best 5th place finish at the CrossFit Games. First time he's competed here at the Rogue Invitational. Clark is up. Pepper's just going to take his time. Again, no one is out there with him on this portion of the event. We still have a handful of bags out there on the field. There is Tudor Magda. Also his first appearance at the Rogue Invitational.
Yeah, an opportunity for Tudor to really, again, measure up against the field. He didn't get an opportunity to qualify for the games this year. Just missed out qualifying, but was present the year before and certainly itching and hungry to return. So this was a great opportunity for him to qualify for the Rogue Invitational and get to test exactly where his training and fitness are.
I mentioned how young Garrett Clark was when he started CrossFit at 12. Tudor was 9 when he started attending classes with his father and got into CrossFit. Now he is across the finish line. Former teenage champion, finished first in the 14 to 15-year-old division in 2018. That is a popular destination right now, the ice buckets.
That's right. Athletes are really trying to fight to get their core temperature down as quickly as they can.
Like Bailey Martin coming across. Jonakowski and Victor Hoffer.
Victor Hoffer, another first timer.
Jeff Adler is going to pick up his second career win here at the Rogue Invitational and start things off with 100 points.
Yeah, when you drop the...
when we got in the vendor.
Yeah, Adler, we wanted to watch him for a reason, and he certainly came out and paced this thing just the right way. But what a great way for him to start.
1907 is his time.
He did a really good job of sort of saving some juice for the end, and you saw that kind of really come to bear, and he just did a fantastic job of taking your advice, you know. Start slow, finish fast.
That's right. We love it when the keys of the event that we perceive as value actually show their fruits. It's a really nice thing.
Very white. It's already winter where I'm from.
Jeff Adler runs a perfect race here in event number 1 and did not take the lead until late on that final 1 mile run.
Yeah, and Sean, I'll tell you what, we knew this was going to be a very difficult test. But the truth is, Jeff Adler even surprised me. As I came up with keys for this event, I knew it was important to run your own race. I knew it was important to trust your preparation. But he looked like he was so far back from Yellow Hosta at certain points of this race that he didn't have a chance to actually get first place. He closed the gap, he did it with confidence, and he strolled to the finish, giving himself just enough gap to make his way across that finish line and get 100 points to kick off this year's Rogue Invitational.
Tia Toomey wins for the women, and Jeff Adler takes it for the men. So 2 people who have stood on top of the podium at the CrossFit Games, starting off with 100 points. And Jeff Adler, because he won the event, gets to talk to Kiki Dixon.
Jeff, congratulations on your event win. For most of this event, Yellow was out in front. How much were or weren't you pacing off of him?
I don't know. I just ran my own race, and then at some point in the last mile, I saw him slow down a little bit, so I was like, if I keep my pace, I'll maybe pass him, and then we'll sprint with the bag. And then he slowed down a bit more, so I took a chance. I tried to make it 1-1 with him. He got me at the game, so I got him here. But I still had to push it a little bit by the end just to make sure that we didn't sprint the bag.
There was a lot of chatter about that first initial mile. How difficult was that, or did you find that you had to push somewhere harder elsewhere?
That was the hardest part for me. I just paced off the other guys. I was like, I'll just keep with those guys, and hopefully they'll break at some point later. So that was my plan for that, and it panned out really well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeff Adler is going to start things off with an event win here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational, pretty much picking up right where he left off the last time we saw him on the competition floor. But 8 events remain here at the Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas, as we will continue action tomorrow. And here is what is on tap for tomorrow. The Strongman competition is going to get things kicked off at noon Central Time with the Tower of Power. 1,000 pounds for reps. That will be fun to watch. Then the CrossFit athletes are back out after that. Seat at the bar, event number 2 for them. The legends are going to come back out on the field. Then we'll have more strongmen, and we will close things out with a strongman event at 6:15 p.m. Central Time with the ultimate log medley. Day 1 is done here at the Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. Texas Heavy lives up to its name, and Tia Toomey and Jeff Adler live up to the hype as they both win the opening test of the 2023 Rogue Invitational, but we are just getting started. For official standings and more, you can visit roguefitness.com/invitational. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, everybody. For Kiki Dixon and Adrian Conway, I'm Sean Woodland. We will see you back here tomorrow for day number 2 from Dell Diamond in Round Rock, Texas.